for all of us. It's about predicting where the consumer is going and getting half of it right.
One of the things we want to do is create ads that don't suck.
Embracing change creates great possibility.
I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.
On the show today, I've got Geoff Tanner. He's the Chief Commercial and Marketing Officer for JM Smucker Company. In his current role, Geoff oversees teams supporting the customer and customer experience across the commercial funnel. This includes consumer engagement, innovation, insights and analytics, as well as the U.S. retail sales, market development, and e-commerce functions. Today on the show, we talk about really the transformation that the marketing organization, as well as JM Smucker overall, has been going through. We talk about the power of one, their agency approach, as well as the approach that they're taking internally to transform, as well as the many key elements that make up that transformation, as well as highlighting some of the external creative that we all can see, things from Jif to Folgers and many of their other brands that we all know. So I hope you enjoy this conversation with Geoff Tanner. Geoff, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, curious and excited for this conversation. There's a lot of good stuff we can talk about. But before we get started on the business side, I hear, obviously, your accent is coming through. So you're from New Zealand, is what my understanding. And I hear you are working on music for Cleveland. I want to know more about that.
Yeah, I'm glad I haven't lost it yet. I'm in trouble if I do. Yeah, if you told my younger self in New Zealand that I would be writing a fight song for the city of Cleveland for the sports teams, I probably would have looked at you sideways. But that's what I'm doing. During the pandemic, like a lot of people, I found myself wanting to give back, especially in the community where we live. We're about 30 minutes out of Cleveland. And I found out that the city and region ranks number one for child poverty in the United States, which is horrific. And just asked how I could give back. I wanted to find something I was really passionate about and sort of marry up giving back to the kids and my own passion, which is music. I'm obviously not good enough to get paid for it, but a passionate musician. So I founded a charity in partnership with the Boys and Girls Clubs here, where we offer music, education, inspiration, and access and opportunities to kids. Piloted it in 6 clubs. It's now been rolled out to 50 clubs. So it's sort of a broad music, education, and experiential program. And in order to raise money to take it to the next level, we decided we needed to generate more community awareness and had the idea of using music and celebrity and combining it with sports and really sort of hopefully uniquely combining the power of music and sport to help the kids. So I went to the professional sports teams here, the Browns, the Guardians, and the Cavs, and said, would you guys be up for a big project where we'll write a fight song for the city and the teams? Would you give us players and really promote it, all in support of raising awareness and money for this charity? And they were fabulous. They jumped at it. You know, I was in the studio last Friday night with Kareem Hunt, one of the running backs for Cleveland Browns, Darius Garland from the Cavs, Myles Garrett, and we're writing and recording a song. It's a hip-hop rock crossover song that is all about the city of Cleveland being a bit of an underdog city and all in support of raising money for kids who go to the Boys and Girls Clubs.
I love that. And I mean, what an amazing cause and passion, I guess, to marry both your passion and a cause together.
Yeah, it's something that I've learned along the way, which is if you can marry up a cause you really care about and something you're really passionate about, you're really going to put the reps in. And I love every second of it. I love being with the kids. I love being in the recording studio. I love pitching ideas to institutions such as the sports organizations. And so it does marry a passion up with what is a very acute need here in Northeast Ohio.
No, that's awesome. I have to ask, growing up, I mean, with this passion in music, did you play in bands too?
No, in New Zealand, you're kind of thrust out onto a rugby field, which is actually how I ended up here in the United States. But I did play the piano, and the love really took over when I started playing rugby, when I wasn't physically able. And it's just grown into almost an obsession, writing, playing, and giving back through music.
I love it. Well, from rugby to chief commercial and marketing officer at JM Smucker. Tell me the path. How'd you end up from New Zealand to where you are today?
Yeah, it's non-linear, which is probably not a surprise. Like I said, I grew up in New Zealand, a small country, 5 million people. Rugby is an obsession, and I played rugby growing up as a kid. I came over to America to play rugby at Penn State, actually, and fell in love with America, fell in love with the people, the culture, the crazy, the bigness of it all. Went back to New Zealand, finished off my degrees there, started a career as a strategy consultant. And, it was a great career start, but at some point I wanted to make the leap and cross over into management and leadership inside a company. But I realized I wasn't going to do that in New Zealand. It's just too small. So I applied to go to business school. I went to Duke, and it was a bit of a rough entry, I'll say. I was here during 9/11, and candidly, it was quite a difficult time to be a foreign student in America. And I was told I wasn't allowed to apply for most jobs. And so I was candidly facing likely going home to New Zealand with a relatively large debt burden. And I got very fortunate and managed to land an internship, the only one that was available to me, at Heinze. They took a chance on me. And since that was 20 years ago, I've never left that first job. We've been bought and sold many times. I've had different owners. I've been owned by private equity. We're now owned by the Smucker company. But I built my career as a brand manager, but I was fortunate to get experience selling businesses. I built an innovation organization. I moved in and out of marketing and innovation and some sales roles. Came across to the JM Smucker company when they acquired the company that we had founded, and was offered a chance to join the C-suite. Actually planned on taking a sabbatical after we'd sold the company. I had it all planned out. I just had my second child and figured that it was a bit of a unique time. I had it all planned out, and then Mark Smucker cornered me in a little bar in Wall Street during an investor meeting and said, would I join his leadership team, and really couldn't turn it down. And so over the past 6 years, I've been working here at Smucker, just helping transform a company that largely grew through acquisition into one that is now doing very well, driving organic growth and stealing market share and competing with the likes of Nestle and Mars and General Mills.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, and to your point around growing through acquisition, how should listeners or myself think about JM Smucker today and the portfolio that you guys have?
Yeah, I'm going to guess most of your listeners know the company is consumer brand, right? Jams and jellies. Well, today we're at around about $8.5 billion, and the jams and jellies business is less than 10% of the portfolio. So our largest business is our pet food and snacks business. That's the one we founded out in San Francisco. They acquired. We're also the largest at-home coffee company in the United States. We have a rocket ship that we refer to, which we call Uncrustables. And the jams and jellies business is a pretty small piece of the portfolio. So the company's really changed a lot through acquisition.
Well, with that portfolio, that's one, it's huge, and I did not realize that the jams and jelly business, which I do have jams and jellies in my refrigerator right now from Smuckers. I did not realize that you guys were $8.5 billion. That's a large remit, if you will, and quite a big portfolio across a host of categories. And you mentioned the transformation that you've been on and the journey with the company. I'd love to hear more about that. I guess when I think of Smucker historically, and I've done work in the consumer packaged goods many, many years ago myself, it was kind of a sleepy company. You didn't hear a ton about it. And it just seems like you guys are on quite the tear. And so tell me more about that transformation, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think sleepy is a good word for who we were. It was a very conservative Midwest company that had, as I mentioned, grown through acquisition. And we had levered up our balance sheet to around about 6 times. So more acquisitions were off the table, and it was now time to start driving organic growth of these businesses that we'd purchased of this new portfolio. But to your point, if you'd gone and asked around the circles of marketing and growth and asked to list companies that would sort of come top of mind as great brand builders, we wouldn't have even been remotely in the consideration set. And that was quite a well understood fact that marketing was not a growth driver in the organization, was not seen as a growth driver. And the marketing model was broken. When you double click into that, our creative was very safe and vanilla. The media was very narrow and conservative. And we were also very siloed internally, and we had many agencies, so we were slow. The work would just get diluted. And that was the reality that we stared at in what would have been 2018, which was this need to grow organically. And marketing, as you know, sales and marketing are the two primary growth levers, and marketing being completely broken. But the thing was, and this is the thing I kept pushing, which we had some great brands. I mean, we have Geoff, and we have Folgers, and we have Meow Mix, and we have Milkbone, and we have these incredible brands. We play in great categories. Pet's a phenomenal category. Coffee's a great category. You know, we're in snacking as well. So the only thing stopping us being world-class when you have great brands and you're in great categories was us. And we all stared at that and we said, well, there's no reason why we can't be world-class. But what we recognized is we needed a revolution of sorts. And that to do what our CEO coined, we need to give our brands and our business a blood transfusion. And that was the rallying cry. That was my rallying cry. That was our CEO, Mark Smucker's rallying cry. And turn marketing into a growth driver. And that mandate was laid down from the very top. And one of the people have asked me, like, how did you get this adopted so quickly? And I think sometimes when no one was defending the status quo, I think if you walked into, I don't know, Pepsi or Procter and said, we're going to completely revolutionize marketing, there could be some resistance. And whereas at Smucker, no one was defending the status quo. We knew we had to transform. We needed a revolution of sorts. And that really was the mantra, that was the burning platform for what has been a complete transformation of how we market our brands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, from a fight song for Cleveland, it feels like you guys had your own fight song internally at JM Smucker.
Yeah, well, we needed it. We needed it. Like we hadn't, when you looked back, if you take that marker, that point in time of 2018, only 25% of our portfolio was growing or holding market share. And we had not seen organic sales growth in 5 years. So that's a pretty hot burning platform.
That's an amazing stat. And I know you've turned the business around at this point. I mean, you talked about leadership buy-in at the top. What were some of the other key elements you had to do to actually make this happen?
So the first thing we had to do was we had to change ourselves. I think sometimes companies can be guilty of thinking that the solution is changing the agency, right? Looking outside for change. And the first thing we did is we looked internally, and we knew that our model, our organization structure was in the way of really bold work and being agile. We had too many silos. We had too many voices at the table. So we created, in essence, a single multidisciplinary team, which we called the Power of One. So we collapsed silos into these multidisciplinary teams. And only once we've done that did we go searching for an agency partner who also believed in the Power of One and could create a Power of One team. So at the time, we had 11 different agencies, and they rolled up into 5 different holding companies. And just no wonder that the work was all over the place, and no one knew who could decision rights. And so we went on a search to find an agency who had a Power of One mentality, who could operate on that model. And then we lined up our Power of One against theirs. And we said, you know what, there's just 2 parties here across the entire portfolio. So that was certainly a critical element to get right. The operating model had to be right for this to work. I would say a second element was we had to lay down a couple of markers around what we believed was most critical to drive the business. The first, and this is something that I hold very dear, which is a passionate believer in the power of breakthrough creative and pushing our brands into culture, taking risks, pushing these brands to the edge. And that was the first pillar. And the second, in our world, was a belief that household penetration is the metric that drives the business. Therefore, a model that was all around reach was going to be the most effective on the media side. So it was really combining these three things. One was a power of one operating model, inside and out. Two, staking a claim that we will push the edge of creativity and push our brands into culture. And third, that we are going to focus on driving household penetration and therefore reach.
I love it. Powerful combination, obviously. I'd love to talk about some of the external examples of this, like in the creative aspect, if you will. Like, I know you've done a number of things with like Meow Mix and Milk-Bone and Folgers. Maybe if you don't mind sharing a couple examples, that'd be great.
Yeah. I mean, we're blessed with these brands that are iconic, but many of them have been around for 50, 100. In the case of Folgers, it's been around for 170 years. And so how do you maintain the relevance of a 170-year-old brand? Right? So that's what we set out to do. So I'll rattle through some examples. So Meow Mix, it's over $500 million cat food brand. And for years, we'd been putting out this creative that was pretty vanilla about it's good tasting food. And we would show these very vanilla shots of pet owners. And what we said is, well, wait a second, we have this iconic jingle, the meow, meow, that jingle. And so I said, you know what, let's lean into what made the brand famous. And we went out and we produced pretty cutting edge TV spots of cats singing the jingle. We worked with the same producer that did a lot of Taylor Swift's work. We put out cats doing pop, country, EDM, and all of a sudden, I mean, yes, the message is this is the best tasting, most fun cat food on the market, but it was delivered in a way that was just so breakthrough and so relevant and resonated with consumers. And some of our media placement around the Grammys, and when we've got radio spots, and I mean, it's, on one hand, it's ridiculous, but you can point to when this creative dropped to watch the business respond. I've never seen a brand respond like that. And as I look at the business today, we're up 20%. And in our world, that's pretty high. Another example would be Geoff Peanut Butter. So if you remember the tagline, choosy mums, choose Geoff. I mean, it's fine. And the creative, again, was pretty vanilla. Johnny comes home from school and, has a nourishing peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But what we decided that this Geoff Peanut Butter brand is so good. We said, you know what? The brand is going to stand for being the best damn peanut butter on the planet. And that was the brief to the agency. And that it makes epically absurd things happen. And so we developed a campaign where we worked with Ludacris, and Luda's in the studio. He's having a tough time making the music come out. And he has this scoop of peanut butter, starts mumbling a little bit, gets in his flow, and then his entire career just takes off again. And it's just wild. He's swimming in a mansion with a pool of peanut butter. And that campaign just blew the doors off the business. I mean, we won a Gold Lion from that. We picked up dozens of awards on that campaign. From Folgers, we knew Folgers is not seen by everyone as the most prestigious cup of coffee. And for years, we'd been trying to showcase the coffee in different settings to try to make it. And then we said, what if we just leaned into that? And the idea was that, you know what, we think it's a great cup of coffee. And if you don't think so, we don't care. And we partnered up with Joan Jett and launched a spot which opens with her anthemic, I don't give a damn about my bad reputation. And we then went and told our story of our heritage, which is we're from New Orleans and the craftsmanship that goes into the cost. So I could go on and on with these examples, but you can see what we're doing here, right? We're tapping into what made the brands famous. And we're doing it in a way that is culturally relevant. And what you'll see here is and it didn't happen intentionally, but what you will see through much of the work we do is a very strong musical thread through the work that we've been putting out.
Yeah. I love these examples. One, because they're hilarious to think about. And they're so visual too, as you describe them. You don't even need to see them to know what it's like. And it's so funny to me because I don't know how many times you're out in the world and you see brands that are perfectly fine, right? Like they've been around, to your point, like Folgers has been around 170 years, and they just haven't gotten the love that they need, frankly. Dust them off, restage them for today and let them shine. And I love the fact that you've tapped into, if you will, like to use kind of Byron sharp language, distinctive assets, around each of these.
I love that you brought up Byron because, he's a fellow New Zealander actually. And I think he lives in Australia now, but I won't hold that against him. He and a guy called Mark Ritson. So I am a disciple of How Brands Grow, but I was so enamored by Mark Ritson, the way Mark Ritson looks. I flew him over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, during the early stages of our turnaround. You know what? You need to come talk to our organization. And his coaching and teaching, his thought DNA is all over the work. And you'll see Byron's reach thinking in our work, and you'll see Mark's coaching and brand codes and what made the brands famous and lean into that. So I would say that the theoretical or underpinnings of our transformation are very much Byron and Mark Ritson influenced.
I love that. Both of which have been on the show, so you're in good company. So I've interviewed both of them, and Mark actually uses a number of my episodes in his embedded mini MBA course.
Oh, well, that's high praise because that guy, he knows his stuff, and we put some of our folks through his mini MBA course. You know what? I need to bring him back out again, make a note to do that.
You should. And then I'm going to make him give me a cut. No, it's awesome. He is fantastic. And he's such a strategic marketer.
The thing I like about him, and it's I'll probably get in trouble with this, but he's a quintessential Australian. He just tells it like it is. It is, and sometimes it can be blunt, and I'll get in trouble, but it's a very Australian way of communicating, in my experience. It's refreshing, and his bluntness just cuts through some of the BS that marketers can get twisted around it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. And he's a very sharp guy, very entertaining. So it's nice to hear his name as it relates to helping you guys find the essence of these brands and make them come back to life. That's amazing. So you've got this new model. You've obviously seen a lot of success on the marketing, like the comms and brand side, if you will. But I mean, your title, even in the title, Chief Commercial and Marketing Officer. We haven't talked about the commercial side. And a lot of times with this to work, you have to have both, right? You can't just have one without the other. How did you make sure the commercial side was ready to leverage what you were doing?
Yeah, I mean, great marketing is powerful, but where the real power comes in is when it's one lever, right, of a holistic growth model. And that's something that we have very intentionally been putting in place. So we've spoken a lot about the marketing side, but in addition to great creative and what I call intelligent media, in order to drive a business for sustainable long-term growth, you need to have great innovation. You need to be working on long-term growth plans with customers. You need to be providing category leadership with them and working on shelf sets. And then you need to have a selling organization that is fundamentally analytically driven on the sales fundamentals. And when you pull all of those levers, that's when you can really accelerate growth. And that is what we have done. We would not have seen the results we'd seen if we had not, in addition, transformed our selling machine. And I am as proud of that transformation as I am of the marketing transformation. And over the last, I'd say, couple of years, the distinction between marketing and sales has completely blurred. You look at, it started, I think, with e-commerce and then the Walmarts and the Amazons of this world. And, Walmart's just gone and put Seth in place as the chief revenue officer. And so we needed to have a similar transformation of sales, which we did. But as I look at it now, what used to be kind of twin towers have now really merged, and the ability to partner with retailers and have this bilingual or multilingual conversation with them about growth that will travel through marketing and brand building and media and then to omni-channel and data, and that's the organization that we've put in place. And, if I think about as we sit here 3 years later, and I think back to where we started, I think I mentioned 25% of the portfolio was growing market share. Well, today it's well above 75. We hadn't seen organic sales growth for 5 years with 11 out of 12 quarters. When we started, our stock price was $93. And look, I know a lot of things move the stock market. I wouldn't put it all on this, but today our stock closed at 147. So 93 to 147 in our space is a good increase. And then we got this call from Fast Company saying, we've just been voted amongst one of the world's most innovative companies. And that you don't do this for awards, but I will tell you that of all the awards we've received, to get that phone call and to be recognized as an innovative company, given where we started, which I know we talked about, really meant a lot. It meant a lot to our organization, meant a lot to me, and it was a real marker of the progress that we've made.
Yeah. I mean, that's quite the accomplishment, especially considering where you started from. And Fast Company, they're typically talking about startups, the unicorns of the world, if you will. And you're a $8.5 billion unicorn and actually profitable.
That's good. Yeah, no, and that's why it meant a lot. Yeah, it wasn't just a sort of an ad award. It was an award on who we've become as a recognition of who we've become as a company over that 3-year period.
Well, amazing success. I mean, it's kind of like jaw dropping. It's hard to put in words all the things that you've taken on and all the transformation that's been driven at the company. Kudos to you guys. And really, I'm really excited to see, frankly, some of like Byron's thinking balanced with Mark's perspective as well. Because a lot of times I think we chase, as marketers, we can sometimes tend to chase the things that are in the waves that come at us, right? And so you've got your purist Sharponians, if you will. And then the thing I do like about Ritson in particular is that he's pretty balanced. At the end of the day, he's very strategic, but balanced in his view and understands the fundamentals. And you prove that the fundamentals pay.
Yeah, I would say that for Byron, I'll go as far as say I'm not sure that enough marketers understand what fundamentally drives their business. And he has shown and proven that it is household penetration. It is not loyalty. And therefore, reach must matter. And yes, we can get smarter about reach, relevant reach. We can avoid weight, but at the end of the day, reach drives household penetration. And then with Mark Ritson, what Byron doesn't talk about as much is the power of world-class creative. And it's really not in his style, it's not in his books. I haven't seen him talk about it. Whereas Mark gave us some excellent frameworks to think about that. And so it was a marriage of those two schools of thought, but leaning more on Byron on the media side and Mark on the creative side. That's what that absolutely underpins our approach.
Yeah, I think as soon as you get out of the math side of the equation in Ehrenberg Bass, it becomes more Jenny's. I think your last name is Remenuk, something like that. But starts to go into her direction with brand assets, how you create brand assets. But agree, there's not a lot of data in the creative world, and so there's not a lot for him to study.
Right. That's a good point. I can tell you, it works. Brilliant creative is the most important element of any mix.
Yeah. Well, another person, as we're talking about like thought leaders in this space, doesn't get as much popular press as Mark or Byron, but I like him, is JB Steenkamp. And you'll have to go to the better, lighter blue business school to find him because he's at UNC. But JB has done some phenomenal work, in particular around like how to thwart private label as well as hard discounters. He focuses a lot on their business model.
That is an issue for us right now. That is something we have square in our sights for sure.
Yeah. So I would encourage you to check out some of his work. But this has been fantastic. What I do like to do is get to know you a little bit better. We know you have a passion around music, helping, giving back to your community. But my favorite question to ask everyone that comes on the show is, has there been an experience of your past that defines and makes up who you are today?
Yeah, I alluded to it before, but it was going to Duke, and it was 2001, and being told that I couldn't get a job. And I got to tell you, that was it was a very difficult period for me. I was the first New Zealander to go to Duke Business School, and I was kind of really proud of that. and I had left home, and I had a good upbringing and didn't really want for much, but I took on a mountain of debt in New Zealand dollars to go to business school in America. And I was faced with having to go home with my, tail between my legs, and, couldn't get a job. And as I said, I got very, 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 very lucky that Heinze was the only company that was hiring marketers, foreign students into marketing. And when I got that internship, I realized like this was my only chance, and I had to make this work. There wasn't an option of it not working out. And I sort of coined this approach that I needed to work probably 2 times harder than everybody else to make this happen. And I really believe that was the moment that I moved off of the people mover in life that I was on a little bit, and needed to move at my own speed a lot faster. And that's when I started to become relentless in a way, which is I will find a way. If someone says no, I'm going to make it happen. And I think experiences, like when you only have one shot, those experiences, they can define you. And it's never left me. And I think it's also left an appreciation for people who have barriers put in front of them, whatever they are. It's why I feel passionate about ID&E. It's why I feel passionate about this music charity with the Boys and Girls Club, because many of those folks have barriers put in front of them. And as someone who lived that experience a little differently, but certainly a barrier, it defined who I have become in business, and it has defined how I think about giving back.
Yeah, very passionate understanding of the cause that you're supporting now. I love that. If you were starting this journey all over again, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say give back earlier. I didn't start this charity until I was 47 a couple of years ago. It not only is it the right thing to do, but it opens up a whole new world that is so fulfilling, depending on what you choose to do. So yes, there is the giving part, and then it's not selfish, but it has opened up a world to me that is so engaging and has given me and my family experiences that they never would have gotten. To be in the recording studio on Friday with the kids and Kareem Hunt, and to be recording a track and have Kareem tackling my kids, and it's just I can't think of anything else I'd rather do on a Friday than be in a recording studio with some professional athlete and giving back at the same time. And I kind of wish I'd done it a lot earlier.
Well, I think as people, we don't realize the power that we have in just what we do normally. Right. And I think you think, I don't know, I've had this thought. I'll say, I don't know if everyone thinks this way, but you have this perception of what it means to have a charity or to give back. And I don't know, I always think, oh, I'm not quite there yet. Right. But the reality is I'm there right now. And so is everyone listening to this. And you have something you can give because you have something of value that creates wealth for you. Just tap into that.
I agree. What I realize is a lot of people write a check and that's it. And actually, for people like you and me and listeners of this podcast, what you have in your world, in your ecosystem, is incredible if you choose to harness it. So for me, just because of my job, I was able to call the CEO of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and say, will you be a partner in this? Call the CEO of the Cleveland Symphony and say, will you be a partner in this? And other organizations. And you know what? They returned the phone call. And I was able to tap into our marketing department and get them to produce assets and make introductions. And so the value that you can bring to the table, I think is when you think through it, is considerable. And it's not just, hey, if I made, a ton of money that I can afford to donate X%, that's not, I mean, yes, that's obviously extremely valuable, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm trying to bring people together to create something special for the kids. And I can only do that because of my day job.
No, it's beautiful. Well, a couple more marketing topics for you. I'm curious if there's something you're trying to learn more about yourself, or you think other marketers should be learning more about.
I think that I mentioned it earlier, this fusion between sales and marketing. Growing up in the consumer products world, sales and marketing lived in the twin towers. They didn't really engage quarterly all the time. And they were just very different frameworks and often different people. And I have just seen a complete merging of those two disciplines. And whether it be e-commerce, whether it be retail media, you go have a conversation with Amazon today, and you have the time. What are we talking? Marketing? Are we talking sales? The common denominator is always data, but the fusion of upper funnel and lower funnel. I had dinner with the CEO of Walmart recently and the chief revenue officer, and it was a bilingual, multilingual conversation. And so one of the things that I do a lot in my job is I'm trying to cross-pollinate. I'm trying to move marketers into sales and sales folks into marketing. I'm trying to encourage my sales folks to understand retail media networks and how they work and how to have those conversations. I'm trying to encourage the sales folks to understand data and then vice versa. And I think that if you want a career in marketing or sales, I would highly encourage people to look for opportunities to become bilingual, multilingual.
I love that. Well, are there brands? I mean, this is a hard question for somebody that sits over so many portfolio or so many brands within your portfolio, but are there brands, companies, or causes you follow or you think other people should take notice of?
Yeah, it's a hard question, right? Because I should be able to rattle them off. But it's tough. I will say the brand that I probably refer to the most is Oreo. A
good friend of mine is Justin Parnell, who's I believe the GM of the Oreo business.
Well, pass him my regards and tell him that there's this guy in Cleveland who's often uses his brand as a marker, because there is no reason for that brand to be so strong. I mean, it's a great tasting cookie, but there's a lot of them. And I am in awe of their branding. I mean, their innovation, their sales execution. And, it's an iconic brand like many of ours, but that brand could have fallen by the wayside, could have become stale. And it is a vibrant brand that is part of culture. It's cool. It's multi-generational. And that is only because of what I see coming out of that team, which is incredible marketing, incredible innovation, and incredible sales execution. So props to them because we use them a lot.
Yeah, they're a pretty phenomenal group. Well, last question for you. What do you believe is the largest opportunity or threat facing marketers today?
I actually think the answer is the same for threat and opportunity. I think we're getting close, but we have to be able to close the loop on mass media measurement. I've been in this business for 20 years. I'm sure I'll offend people with a statement, but some of those ROI models, I think, are still suspect. They're too imprecise. They're regression-based. We should be able to, and we must be able to measure the impact of an ad, who watched it, and measure precisely whether it impacted purchase in very short order. Those things must be possible. I think we're getting close. Hulu and Kroger, some stuff Amazon's doing, Walmart will get there, but we're not there yet. And when we get there, could you imagine being able to drop an ad and know definitively, very quickly, did it reach my target consumer and how much did it change purchase? And know that within 60 days. There's no reason we shouldn't be able to do that. I mean, the more OTT we go, it's going to be easier, the more that retailers jump into this space. But I just think it's unusual that here we are 20 years later and no one's really, really cracked it, right? And I say it's an opportunity and it's a threat because there are many marketers, I think, who are, feel they need to try to justify the ROI but this would be definitively how to do it. So I think it's a huge opportunity and one that I hope we can solve certainly before I retire. That would be nice.
I love that. Well, I mean, we've been in this world. I think I'm going to get my dates a little wrong, but like somewhere in the 1970s, 1980s was when the scanner data began to be a thing. So you're in like 40, 50 years ago. We've had data and we haven't figured out the best way to measure this stuff.
Isn't it mind-boggling how we don't? I mean, think about what we can do with technology and the fact that we can't actually measure the true impact is mind-boggling at one level.
Well, and I hope that consumers want us to get there too, because I think as soon as, to your point, we can say definitively, I drop an ad and I know the impact of sales, it's going to be an arms race for creative quality and creative effectiveness, right? And it's just going to make the ad experience that much better.
That's a really good point, actually. It'll only make the work better. and hopefully less of an intrusion. I mean, look, we'll get there, but it's mind-boggling that we're still sitting here unable to answer that question.
No, I know. It's crazy. Well, Geoff, kudos on all the work that you've done, the success. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing it with us.
Yeah, and you really reminded me. I'm going to put a call back into Mark and Ritson and get him over here, because he absolutely fired up our organization when we launched this. So
thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, it's Alan again. Marketing Today was created and produced by me with post-production support from Sam Robertson. If you're new to Marketing Today, please feel free to write us a review on iTunes or your favorite listening platform. Don't forget to subscribe on marketingtodaypodcast.com and tell your friends and colleagues about the show. I love hearing from listeners. You can contact me at marketingtodaypodcast.com. There you'll also find complete show notes and links to what was discussed in the episode today, and you can search our archives. I'm Alan Hart, and this is Marketing Today.